Hello and welcome to our flip video lesson for lesson 2.04 from Nomad to Farmer. So for today's lesson, you do have your Human Odyssey reading pages 28 to 32, and then your student guide workbook pages 29 and then 31 to 35. And then for the OMS assignment, you have an assessment 2.04. And then the topic is about farming and geography concentrated in ancient Mesopotamia. And then our student guide objectives, or our lesson objectives, I should say, would be to describe climate changes that encourage migrations, define agricultural revolution, identify on a map the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, Persian Gulf, and other physical features of Mesopotamia, explain farming and herding in Mesopotamia, and recognize how the channeling of floodwaters affected the development of civilization. And this we're going to talk a little bit about in tomorrow's lesson as well. We're just going to touch briefly on that for today's lesson. So our introduction is climate changes that took place over thousands of years gradually pushed people to change their ways. Women and men learned to control some aspects of their environment. This control led to a dramatic change in the way people acquired food. Where did the revolution begin? What favorable conditions existed? First one change and then another. This is what led to the eventual development of river valley civilizations. Explore the events that brought early settlements to the land between rivers. So we're going to go ahead and you're going to use your student guide as we always do. So you're going to go ahead and open your student guide. You want to turn to page 29. Once again, I'm not sure why the student guide does this, but once again, the actual questions for this are on page 29, which go back to the previous lesson. But go ahead and turn there. There's not a lot of room at the bottom of the page, but you can go ahead and write in there, or you can get a piece of notebook paper and write them on there, and then you can just staple it to this page so they're all in there. Okay? So you should have that out and ready. So this is question number 1 on your student guide, page 29. What are the major physical features of Mesopotamia? Mesopotamia is located between the land that encompass the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. It has mountains, hills, and fertile plains. So fertile plains mean it's good soil. It's got soil. And again, we'll talk about that a little bit today, but more in lesson 2.05. Question number 2. What climatic changes encouraged the development of agriculture in Mesopotamia? With the melting of the glacial ice sheets, land that had been cool and arid became warm and moist. Thick forests and grasslands grew. And just a little side note there, the word arid means dry. Question number 3. How and when did farming develop in Mesopotamia? Before 6500 BC, women figured out how to save seeds from grains and sow them for the next harvest. They discovered they could plant seeds in fields where grains did not already grow. Question number 4. How and when did herding develop in Mesopotamia? By 4000 BC, men began taming wild animals and keeping them in herds. They found that the herds could graze on lands that were not good for farming. Herd animals also provided milk for their children and meat for their families, and sheep's woolly skin for clothing. Herders moved to the hills in summer and to the low grasslands in winter to find food and water for their animals. And if you need more time, you can always pause this video. Some needed vocabulary for your assessment and for an understanding of this lesson. Agricultural revolution. That was that giant step forward that humans took when they deliberately planted seeds to grow crops. Slash and burn agriculture is a method of preparing land for farming by slashing the bark of trees to kill them and then burning the brush and scattering the ashes to help keep soil fertile. Domestication is the practice of taming wild animals. And Mesopotamia is known as the land between two rivers. And just a little bit more on agricultural revolution. It was this dramatic change because it gave people some control over their environment. Women in the Middle East were the very first known people to produce food through agriculture. And then farming in Mesopotamia, again, herding was extremely important in the grasslands. Farmers and herders helped each other by trading goods. And early inventions like a spade and a hoe made farm work much easier. And here, if you look on page 33 in your student guide, so you can turn to page 33, and you'll see here there's a map. It's a blank map like this one on the left-hand side. I filled mine in. There's directions there that say label the Tigris and Euphrates, label the Mediterranean, locate the Zagros Mountains, the Syrian and Arabian deserts. So you can go ahead and do that on your own. You can pause this video if needed. You're welcome to look at mine if you'd like. It's also in your book on page 22. So go ahead and you can pause this video and you can fill in those areas on the map. And then if you look on page 34 of your student guide, this is question number 6. Describe the relative location of Mesopotamia. Mesopotamia lies between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. Mountains border it on the east, deserts on the south, and the Persian Gulf on the southeast. Question number 7, where in this area would ancient people have likely farmed and why? And then consider the relative location. The people would have farmed the riverbanks between the Tigris and Euphrates. The mountains and deserts that border the area would not be suitable for farming. Question number 8. From which mountains do the Tigris and Euphrates river flow? Into what body of water do they flow? So they flow from the Zagros Mountains and into the Persian Gulf. And you can use this map on this slide to help you, or again, you can use the picture that you just, or the map that you just filled in. Number 9, how would you describe the physical features of northern Mesopotamia? How would you describe the physical features of southern Mesopotamia? Northern Mesopotamia is mountainous and hilly with plateaus. It has long, hot, dry summers and mild, rainy winters. Trees and grasses grow along the riverbanks, and trees grow on the hill and low mountains. Southern Mesopotamia is a desert with very hot summers and little rain. The land between the rivers is a floodplain, and the floodwaters left rich soil that is free of stones and roots and excellent for planting. Many kinds of waterfowl and animals lived there, and date palm trees grew on the riverbanks. Farther south, the climate was hotter and drier, but it also had good soil. And again, at any point in time, you can pause this video if it's going too fast for you to get your answers into your student guide. And question number 10, what was it like to live in ancient Mesopotamia? What was the new land like? The people worked hard to raise the food and money needed to survive. The land between rivers was rich in nutrients and good for farming and feeding cattle. There was little time for play or recreation. The people worshiped gods who they believed controlled the forces of nature. And then identifying cause and effect, you can go ahead and turn to page 35 in your student guide, which is, right here. So this is just a chart that I made that's has the same information. So the Ice Age ends, and what happened because of that? Rising temperatures support agriculture and affect the move to Mesopotamia. People discover that they can grow food by scattering seeds, so people began to farm the land. People need more fertile farmland, so people develop slash and burn agriculture. People need a steady supply of meat, so people learn to domesticate animals. Farmers and herders move from northern Mesopotamia, so people settle in valleys along the Tigris and the Euphrates rivers. And agricultural revolution and domestication of animals gives people a steady food supply. And then the effect of that was that villages developed. And so again, you can always pause this video, take time to fill in this chart, and take time to really think about what the causes and what the effects were. And here we come to our saying, which this one is always good for the beginning of the year because, we're all kind of trying to get back into the mode of our daily schedule. So one of the advantages of being disorderly is that one is constantly making exciting discoveries. And here we come to the end of our flip video. Thanks for joining me today. Stay positive, stay fighting, stay brave, stay ambitious, stay focused, and stay strong. Have a great day.